This conference will now be recorded.
Mine has to be on. That's going to create the echo. We're going to have to shut these down.
everybody's on mute.
Turn your microphone on. Oh, okay. That seems to be working. All right. You can shut that right off. Just power it right off. Right hand side. All right. Now I think we have solved the technical problem. So just to review, we opened the meeting. We were a little bit late. We apologize for that. The only business we've actually done is the approval of the June 11th meetings, which was in the packet for everybody. Minutes were there. It was motioned by John, seconded by Dan, and unanimously approved. And that's where we are. And we just got to FY 2020 closing and FY 2021 update. Second item on the agenda. No, we're going to go to new business. That's right. New business is the year-end budget transfers. We have 4 year-end budget transfers. I sent them to you. That's later.
Oh,
These are the new ones. So we have 6 old ones that we did before that you're going to redo tonight. And then there are 4 new ones for tonight. They're dated 7/6. I have copies here that are signed by the town administrator and by the director of finance. And again, these are year-end transfers to take care of monies that coming from accounts that are over and then go into accounts that are under. It's just a balancing situation. Here is a copy, John, for you. So I would entertain a motion on those. Anyone?
I'll make a motion that take a vote on the year and four year-end transfers.
And there's 4 of them.
There's 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we make a motion?
Yep. John made a motion and seconded. Discussion. Carol, do you have anything on these that you'd like to add in, or?
Information on each one of these transfers, more detailed information. I actually gave the chairman a packet that is going out to the board of selectmen in the next meeting on Monday. And that is dated today, July 9th. In that information, detailed information about each one of these transfers, in addition to copies of those transfers. But I'm happy to go over them individually with you if you prefer. First budget transfer is for administration. It's for a vacation buyback for the town administrator. The second one listed on budget transfer number 1 is for CFAP expenses. And those are administration expenses that are associated with round 4 and round 5 solar project that the town is working on. The second budget transfer funds gas instruction salaries, wages, due to increased inspections that were necessary to the fire station 2 Cape Cod Regional second one out budget transfers. Two is the pleasure to pay workers here at Town Hall who work through with engineering this year, and so it's exciting to that. So that we try to transfer the budget.
Can you cite the number?
The first transfer that was necessary to fund the vacation buyback, and this is just because there was insufficient funds in salaries and wages and administration. So the buyback is much greater than the number of them going to number of just what's necessary because funds for
In a deficit.
for the CBEC, round 4 and 5, solar initiative, it's $11 million. And then the gas inspection salaries and wages, $89 million. The engineering stipend, the dollar amount necessary, $3,000. Budget transfer number 3, which contains 2 ordinance. One is to fund Medicare, that's the town portion of Medicare, 1.45% of every dollar paid that the town pays on the employees. Nothing matches with Medicare. This is to $322 million from Medicare. And I'll tell you the reason why we had such a shortfall on Medicare, if you recall your last meeting, we also approved Medicare on a transfer, was because we have about $800,000 in these details that are going to fund see what happens. And the SRF, the state revolving loan fund, is not covering it. So we do not anticipate those funds. We also looked at market last June and sold the last remaining amount that we did at Harwich, the construction there. Those that came through the payables in June, and we had already, by the time the market settled funds, we had already reported the funds town meeting and already prepared the budget. This was included in that. The principal on that debt is $18,150, and the interest is $11,020. And then cemetery salaries and wages, cemetery department bond to budget to June 29th and June 30th, which are Monday and Tuesday, and so their budget is short by $610. And then the community center incurred some expenses to fund Sunday openings. The community center obviously and that's
I remember in the past, in the 90s, that the first thing the town administrator used to do when he presented the budget to both boards would be to explain how many weeks there were in the year, whether it be 52.2 or whatever, to just explain the differences from one year to the next because of those kinds of things. So we have a motion to approve those. We have explanation. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval say aye. All those opposed say no. It's unanimous vote. Now we're going to talk about the year-end budgets and so forth. I told you there are 3 documents here. One was handed out to the selectmen last Monday. The second document is the tax code, which is the basis of those documents. And the third one is the one that's going to be handed out to the selectmen this Monday. So I'll just pass those down and get those going. We'll ask Carol if she wants to give us any additional information and go from there. Here you go, John. Go ahead, Carol.
the first document you have before you was dated June 18th, and this was a document that was before the selection for a couple of different purposes. One was to approve the budget transfers that you have approved with the prior meeting. These are your once you authorize the budget transfers for the budget. And so it's explained rather than more information summary information. But then that document will move forward to talk about monthly spending plans. And that monthly spending plan for the month of July is presented to the board of selectmen on June 22nd. The information and narrative I have this document really lays out how that 1/12 in the month of July. And it was through multiple conversations that I and my counterparts had with the Department of Revenue, webinars that we were required to attend, and then a number of questions that were filled out before our representative, Department of Revenue, and myself. So the monthly spending plan begins with the tax rate recap, which is a document. It begins with that tax rate recap and specifically on page 1, line item 1A, the 78,644,544. And that's where the 1/12 budget of the monthly spending plan begins. We were provided information by the Department of Revenue in a bulletin number 2020. So you begin with the tax rate recap. You have to subtract out any cash that was appropriated for FY19 at your last town meeting, and the free cash that was appropriated is $137,500. And then you divide that number, and that's the basis for your 1/12 budget. And so what the Department of Revenue has told us is that you can't fall under that for monthly budget. We will reject it. So, and if we move on with, using the proposed budgets that the regional school districts brought over to, and then I analyzed all the spending in each individual month to determine what months were outlying items, other months that were cleaner on spending. We were required to renew cost of living basis, so that's the contract that and then had our for the month of July, Barnstable County retirement assessment is due payable in July. There are two options to pay Barnstable County. You can pay twice the fiscal year, but you pay so the town pays only children to save that money or pay that. So the Barnstable County retirement assessment is included in our July spending. We have marina insurance premiums and Indian premiums that we do July 1st. So those are included as well. And then regional school district that is due 5 times a year per year for the school district. One of those so those items were included in the I'll note too that the water commissioners are required to authorize their own so they do that prior to the board of selectmen. We then submit information to the Department of Revenue. They review all of the information and come back and probably result of monthly spending for July. I prepared the same information for the months of August, September, and October. Those will be addressed by the Board of Selectmen in the reason why I included October was just in case something so we have the Another document they have for you is the information from the on Monday. They have not seen this information yet. That document includes what you get received for budget transfers, in addition to the monthly spending plan for the monthly policy. So there are some items that are unique to each month. In the month of August, we have subject to sick time. We have anticipated employee retirement. We have the fire department and Barnstable County Sheriff's Office that they pay on the basis. They have paid times and we pay services separate on the Harwich on an annual basis in August. We have a library membership two twice a year and the first half is due in August. And then we have the golf department. And then in addition to that, we can't get to that. I had originally prepared a form, sent it to the Department of Revenue, they came back and said, we don't want to run into finance committees.
Right.
And they said they prefer to have it under the budget. And so I moved it. So you have almost $2.5 million.
Hope they spend it wisely. No, that's good, I think. Any questions on that so far?
Where'd that $2 million come from?
Just to make,
So when you take the tax recap amount, you subtract what was appropriated for free cash for FY19, $137,500 for fund snow and ice. And then you divide that by 12. You have to get to that number.
The $2 million.
That which is $6.5 million. You have to get it. If you don't get it, have the revenue will
reject.
send out.
So it's sort of like the ultimate placeholder at some point. Now, that gets straightened out in September if we vote a budget, and the voting of the budget for the entire year eliminates the need to carry on with any more of the 1/12 stuff. So even though you had to go to the exercise of preparing October, should everything go well, we might not need it. If everything goes very poorly, we'll be doing this until next May, but at least right now, that's where we are. And I guess I want to hand out a document now. When we get to the next item, we have so many documents that were prepared for us tonight. We have so many that I've sent you in the packet. I'll give one of these. This one here really is going to set us into fast forward motion pretty quickly around here. This is the timeline, or the second page of the timeline, which actually began in June of last year. This is a timeline that we were supposed to be following to get to town meeting if the town meeting was had at its regular time in May. And if you take that date and start applying it to September 28th, if you take the May 4th date and apply it to September 28th, we're 80 days away from that starting tomorrow. And if you go back to Monday, March 23rd, 2020, that's about 42 days out from town meeting, but by that point, we are supposed to be all done. We're supposed to have our warrants in our hands. We're supposed to have voted on them. We're supposed to have seen all the people we're supposed to see. We're supposed to have written our explanations and gotten them ready to go to the printer. And then it takes the printers a couple weeks to actually print them, and then it takes a couple weeks. You have to have the document out in front of everybody before that. So 38 days from tomorrow, we're supposed to be done. And it's really why you're getting hit with a lot of information right now. That kind of is probably going to be information overload, and we're going to take time to go through it, and we could ask questions all night, but really I would encourage us to go back and take a look at what we've got and where we are. We've got a lot of little projects that we've got to get working on and get assigned, and that's really what I want to get to it from this point forward. We just don't have time to do a lot other than that. So I'm going to ask people to do their homework at home, check out the flood of information that you have. But real quick, we're going to form a subcommittee and try and work with a couple members, a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen, to try and just move things forward and get the major components that I think we're going to need in place in order to go forward. You know, we have to talk about reserves. That's a big question that, and I have sent the chairman this in an email, and he concurs. We have met and talked about it, and chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Larry, and getting this going is paramount, and we're hoping to have our end. They did it Monday night, voted their end of it. We're hoping to vote our end of it tonight. So I'm hoping for that. And then we will meet tomorrow night. We're already posted for it in advance of this, hoping that we can get to that point and start that portion. There's other things we have to have as well, and those are listed on here later in the agenda that we've got to get to and get going. There's been a major change in how we do our capital planning. It's been a 2-year effort, but there was a town meeting change, and then a year later, a vote, which happened last June 30th, that says that we're changing the way we do the capital plan. So taking that document and applying it to the last capital plan that we voted takes some doing to figure out exactly what we have right now for a capital plan. And we might need some direction from the Board of Selectmen on this, and the Capital Outlay Committee, who haven't met lately either. You know, this virus has slowed a lot of things down all the way around, but we're at a point where we have to go on fast forward now. So if you look at this, we got 80 days till town meeting starting tomorrow, June 10th, July 10th. And the big one is the 42 days to the annual town meeting, which is 38 days from now. There's a lot of things that we have to accomplish for that. They're going to press in 6 weeks. We have to be done in 6 weeks so they can go to press in 7 weeks. So we're probably gonna, I just got an email from Mary asking what our intentions are for meetings for August and September. I think it's gonna be at least 2 nights a week. I'm gonna go with Thursdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays, if that's all right with the board, or if another night works better, we can do that. But I guess we've got to plan on some meetings for a while. Yes.
The discussion that's going to involve
Yeah.
What is your fund?
That would be the stabilization account is our biggest reserve. That has about $4.5 million in it right now. And there's there's going to be a number of leftover money, and the only good news about having our annual town meeting for 2021 in September is we're going to have a couple of months of data as far as income coming in to help us make a better estimate as to what the revenue is going to be in this year of uncertainty. And we'll have 2020 completely closed. We'll know exactly what's left over in those accounts, and there is going to be some money left over in those. And we'll have a better sense as to whether, when we submit for our free cash approval certification, that it's going to come in time for the September town meeting, or maybe that's something we're saving. I mean, there's a lot of thought into that portion of the reserves, the free cash. We haven't spent our free cash from this year yet.
So the stabilization fund is separate from
Free cash or any other place. Right, we've put money in it over the years. I've heard since I've been in town that it's good to have money in reserves and that you use those reserves in an emergency.
it's not a restricted reserve.
Are there restrictions on that?
Like stabilization.
Right. It has to be-
It goes to town meeting, it has to be voted by town meeting, and it requires a 2/3 vote to pass. It's our savings account, and the idea is that you don't want to spend that with just a simple majority. You want to spend that with a 2/3 majority of the people supporting it. That's in addition to free cash, yeah. So we've got deficits. We don't know exactly what they are right now. We have ranges, and poor Carol has to try and figure out what those guesses are at the moment. But we've got so much going on in the whole U.S. as to what's going on with the virus and so forth. We don't, we're just guessing here where we're going to be, but we're going to have a lot better attempt at it when we get to town meeting at the end of September than we are right now. We'll have a better number and a better feel for where we are. But yes, that's part of the discussion. And the biggest part of, to me, with the Board of Selectmen, they are the policymakers, and it's their warrant, whether they include certain articles to help deal with all the possibilities is part of the discussion I want to have with them. Making sure that we have those kind of options, making sure that we're not missing something in the warrant, which means they'll have to open the warrant and include things again. They'll have to close it. That takes some time. It has to be on an agenda. They have to bring it forward and go from there. So, we're not going to have a warrant or even a draft warrant for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know, which eats into the 38 days we have to do it all. So a lot of stuff to do. We're all going to have to be on the ball. We're all going to have to pitch in and do our part. Angelo,
I'll go down a different path.
always. Sure.
Are these my-
Yes.
these are-
It's not been a number of times in the last 6 months or so. I said they thought that we should keep spend our taxes without last week. I think they did at one time. I think that it should be imperative that we have meeting to that meeting and the budget of the Christ Street with that same number as taxes. Pretty last year. And we only do things that we absolutely need and don't really anybody. And the reason I'm saying that is several years ago, there was a meeting with the resident of this Ronald, because he had all sorts of issues, and he was trying to generate all sorts of things, and we ended up having basically this plan, totally knocked down, and created a bunch of people being fired, all that, and so I think we should take a look to try to get collected and use some of the money that we have for stabilization funds. We have to balance it, keep the touch, whatever, about when we originally exactly. I love the way you said exactly the same. But otherwise, we're going to have we have a bunch of citizens, residents, we own business and working on business that is having problems over the last months and months. We have jobs, and on and on and on. And the things that we I think should not do, that includes only new people to, workers in town. Obviously, when somebody is not a workspace, but I don't think we need people. It would be very, very disheartening. Difficult to work with people. I don't want to restrict the same.
I know that the late 90s was the last time that we went forward with a budget that didn't raise taxes. We allowed new growth, and we allowed increases in local receipts, and that was the only money that we counted on. And we did that 3 years in a row, and that's the last time that has been done. The selectmen are already being pressured about new positions, at least as far as discussion points, and we've been watching their meetings. There's needs out there that have been created by the virus that they've at least got to talk about. Whether people would understand that or not, I don't know, but it's going to be fruitful discussions. I think we need to just get everybody onto the same page, and I think that's the subcommittee, in my mind, is just helping to make sure we've got our thinking caps on. The subcommittee is going to have 4 people that have finance committee experience extraordinaire, and then 4 people that have selectman experience, and 4 people that have both. So it's there's going to be people from other towns. There's going to be, it's a good mix of the 5 people. It's really got a lot of people, town municipal savvy coming to the table here, I think, if we can do it right.
It's absolutely mortgage. And I want to know is, raise my taxes. We do things that we don't have to do.
Right.
We do that.
Yep.
Rather than going for, that's what we got.
Yep. John?
I understand the subcommittee, I support it 100%. What budget are we working on? Are we working on this budget here of roughly roughly $70 million? We don't even have a budget that we're playing with.
I'm starting with the budget that we ended with the meeting, the joint meeting of the board of selectmen, finance, and that's
Right. So if you remember,
Is that this one here?
that's what's reflected there, and that's a spreadsheet that I just do every year that I sent out. And the if you remember back then, we the selectmen had already sent the schools back to renegotiate their number,
Right.
and that looks like it's changing. There was also, I want to say, 5 or 6 different budgets that were presented that some needs were identified. It was probably about $75,000, as I recall it, that there was discussions about should be added back into the budget, increasing it by 75 and dropping it in other areas. So in terms of where we start, that's the number we started with, but
I just want to know what number we're
right.
We're starting. So this would be this is from you, Darryl, like the draft for discussion purposes only. Okay, that's showing. Okay, that's the nebulous budget we're starting to work with now, about $70 million.
And we're going to spend 3 months of it before we get to
Right.
our actual town meeting where we vote what the total is going to be. So,
Okay, and to Angela's point, that's only a 0.6% increase from the 2020 budget.
right.
Okay.
But it has different tax implications.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just wondered what
And
number we
and
would
there
start
will be suggestions in the subcommittee to bring that number down.
Yes, yeah.
And,
That's where we're starting at $70 million.
so rather than dwell longer on the budget updates for 2021 and all those things, again, I'm going to ask people to do their homework. I'll supply you with whatever you think you need if you just email me individually and ask for something, I have years of stuff. But I would really like to just move on to the discussion of the subcommittee, if that's possible. And sure.
What is the number? That statement that is taxes. What is the
Taxes for waste, real estate and personal property taxes typically raised, is what the, again, this is just a starting point, but we're not understanding anymore. It's 53 million, almost $200,000, whereas last year it was 52 million, almost 200.
so if we actually somehow could be covered that, then,
If you didn't raise, if you raise and appropriate the same number as you did last year, then you didn't raise the taxes. However, one of the numbers that makes that up is receipts, and we have additional pressure on us with receipts. So it's not going to be an easy task, but it's certainly.
we can look at those on receipts some places. Maybe if we can look at things that can be held off.
Right.
We did all the town road, we held off.
And that, like I said, is going to be a 2-night-a-week discussion from now until town meeting for us. And there'll be new information each time. So we have to just have our wits about us and try to understand that we have the tools to work with. Where do we vote? And we make the motion first. So if Angelo's ideas are the strongest and we end up voting that way, then that's the first motion. And if not, then it'll be something different. So we'll just, that's kind of what we're up against. The idea of the subcommittee was to just, the selectmen are very tied up in their meetings with the virus and all the stuff that goes with it, as well they should be. They're concentrating on that. The town administrator is concentrating on that. The director of health is concentrating on that. People's health and safety right now is paramount. And it would be just not fair to anybody to try and drag that whole process down by interjecting a whole bunch of budget stuff all the time with the entire board. I don't think. So I suggested, and Chairman and I just talked about it, and the idea of having a subcommittee evolved from that. We both just looked at each other and thought that was a good idea. So I would like to get this board to vote a subcommittee of 3. I'm asking that John be on it to learn more and to try and chair some more stuff as we go along. And I'm asking Angelo to be on it because he has been through those cycles, and he went through the year where we had the biggest tax rejection we've ever had in town, and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm looking for there. And I would entertain a motion to that effect. Moved by Mark. Is there a second? Second. And our scribe is writing that right down. We have no secretary again. And that's my public message for everybody. If you want to earn some money during this time, you want to take our minutes and write them up once a meeting, we can afford to pay you for that. So we're looking for people who might be interested in doing that. We'll try every way to help you and accommodate you, but we could use that assistance. We have it in our budget. Further discussion on that. The other thing I'll add is that you'll see in the next item that there are some specific topics that I think we need to also cover, and I'm looking for each person to get an assignment there on taking one or the other. So we'll be getting into those as well. Some people have already come to me with ones they would like, but we'll go on from that. So the motion is out there to create the subcommittee and add the personnel. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous vote?
Dale second.
Yeah. In addition to that, as I said, we have a new capital plan, and just as we've also been going through this virus with all the electronics and computers and things that are needed and being done, and we're using GoToMeeting. I was in a meeting at one point with almost unlimited numbers of people through a company called HubSpot. That turned out to be a really easy. You saw all the difficulties we had. HubSpot, H-U-B, HubSpot. And that meeting, they just send you the credentials. You click once and you're in the meeting. It was very quick, simple, and easy. Certainly worth looking at. So I put on there just electronics and communication as a topic that I think one of us, as a committee of one, should go forward and try and research. And I'm hoping that Mark is up for that task, because he is our resident guru for those types of things. And I would just like to appoint him as a committee of one to take that on. And by consensus, I'm hoping that nobody would object to that. And we'll talk more in detail about what you think, but you probably have a better idea than I do of what kind of we're looking. Are we in the right spot now? Do we need to bring in resources? You know, we're talking about not spending money, but might be an area that we need to. And we still have the same situation, I think, with Foster and personnel-wise that we had a year ago. That was a problem. So that's up for discussion. I also talked to Mr. Sherry, Tom Sherry, who's could not be here tonight. He's away. He's out of state, and we had a good conversation yesterday, and he is really interested in looking at the new capital plan that was voted. He would like to try and sort out what the new language says and what that means to the last capital plan that we voted, and where we have to go from there, and where he seemingly volunteered for that. I would certainly like to let him go do that. So I'm hoping we can appoint him without objection as a committee of one to match up the recent votes on capital planning with our last capital plan, work with the Capital Outlay Committee and the Board of Selectmen on what we have for a capital plan right now, because as near as I can tell right now, we do not have one that matches what our new charter says should be one. Angelo's got a question.
Yeah, just a question. When you vote for something like that, if it's voted, you know, it's non, and then the next time it's voted, it comes to the real thing that we have to do. But the department that we're doing it, do we need everything for that new structure? If we have to, I mean, it's a legal problem.
Yeah, to me, there's,
Or do we just continue to ask on
that's
inaugurate that next year?
that's actually a real good policy question, and the policymakers that will have that on their list of 4 questions for tomorrow that we're going to be talking about in the subcommittee.
I don't even know if about the legal stuff.
Well, the Attorney General hasn't certified our votes yet, but at some point he will do that, or she, is it he will do that, and so we'll end up with it takes 45 to 90 days for all of that to happen, but in the meantime, it's our law of the land right now. Our town clerk has said that it passed, and we did it according to how we change our charter, so that is our charter now. So in my opinion, it's just one person's look at it, we should be following the charter, but others might think that it's not possible, or might not think that it doesn't go into effect yet, or whatever. So that's a policy question. but helping to steer them to the right decision, helping to at least look at it. And that's really kind of what I have in mind in some of these others. I just think as a finance committee, we should be, a lot of this stuff is not new. Buildings don't fall apart overnight. We have a series of buildings that need to be tracked and paid attention to. We should have a real good spreadsheet on what that is. Vehicles and equipment, the same kind of thing. So I have those down as areas to have as areas of concentration. I also have personnel. We don't add employees all the time, but sometimes we take part-time employees and make them full-time. Sometimes we take half positions and make them full positions, and that brings in the question of benefits and all those things. So I put that on the list, and I know that you, Dan, asked about getting into that and looking further into that. And if you go back to the presentation that the town administrator made to the joint meeting in January, was it January or February? I was not part of the committee then. It was part of my time off. He had a lot of personnel stuff in there. The joint meeting that we held in March had a lot of personnel stuff in there, what each department as staff has been for the last several years, taking the time to go around and visit some of the key large hirers and finding out where we are is probably a noble exercise. Yes. So he's also on the list of people you want to discuss, but he's also pretty busy these days. So without objection, I would have Dan as a committee of one to take care of that. And where you're here and Brian's not, of the two topics left, I would say you get to pick one. You want equipment and vehicles, or do you want buildings? Buildings, real estate guy wanting buildings. That's pretty good. You can do a nice assessment of each one.
On building, could we add land to that, just raw land? If the town has considerable holdings of raw land. I have a list, and you can get the list in the session. It'd be nice to know that raw land.
So there you would want to touch base with the open space committee and see, and just go to one of their meetings and ask flat out just how they're doing and what they're seeing, and because it's really their job to advise the selectmen as to what should be sold, what should be kept, what should be considered for what other use or whatever. But you could certainly start there as a place to ask them.
That's a big number. And now this reference one piece of land parcel that the town voted, or didn't vote, but it's either voted or had very strong opinions on, the pet cemetery. Right. They wanted that, the town people wanted, the majority and wanted that to be sold. So I'd like to know where that's, and things like that. That's when the big numbers are.
You know,
this time of budget numbers, that's 600,000, 200,000. That's the one that triggers that land. There's multiple land holdings stuff.
I do remember doing an open space for the meeting.
Yeah.
all right. Carol has something.
I think you probably already know very well, the assessment office to identify all the bills.
And Sean Libby at the highway department is also this building head of buildings as far as their maintenance and so forth. So having a meeting with him is probably on your list as well. His office is up at the highway department on Queen Anne Road. Angelo.
Thank you, Dan. Should we see if the town has a new flood plan? Perhaps the town would say to them.
Yeah, I know Dennis made that a big topic. They've talked about theirs already. I haven't seen our maps yet, but I should trade your big boat in for 2 kayaks. No. Okay, so without objection, you're in charge of buildings and/or land. And land, as amended. And I'll talk to Dale about vehicles, and I do have a complete list of, Brian, I'm sorry, about vehicles, and I do have a complete list of all the vehicles that we own, kind of their condition as of a certain date, but wonderful. And I just think it's a tool that this committee should keep as a tool, and just like I try to keep as my own personal tool, that spreadsheet with the budgets on it year after year that I send out, and the capital plan, that spreadsheet that we do on the capital plan, and the spreadsheet on the warrant that I've just been sending out to everybody for years. It's just a good tool to work from. And it's something that we ask for every year. And I just think that we should have a bigger role in tracking the information and keeping it rather than always asking for it. It's my opinion. So that's kind of what this is all about. All right. Anything else? Yep.
That section, Carol, that you presented to one of the things that came out of it was the development of a toolbox that contains all the stuff, all the tools that a citizen can use in order
Yeah.
to see where these spreadsheets could be started.
Exactly. Once we can get a document to a point where it's presentable, then that's exactly what I would intend to do with it, is present it and put it right on our website and say, you know, and as Angelo said, the first document they want to see is that one that tells them what their taxes are and what they're going up to and what they've been, and we just control half of that formula. You know, the state actually sets the assessment, tells what your value of your property is. We just set the rate at which it's taxed. So that part we don't control. So I remember one time when I was on the Board of Selectmen, we didn't raise tax. In fact, we went down 10 cents. And the next meeting, we had a whole bunch of angry people in the room because they got their tax bills, and they owned land that was out in the woods. And then it turned out that their new acquisition, it was going to be next to a golf course, and their land was assessed at a much different rate. This was when the National Golf Course came into being. The land was reassessed. They all had larger tax bills. They're like, how does that happen? So there's parts of this that we don't control. So that's all I have on the agenda, except for one item, which I'm going to turn over to John to take care of, and that is the revoting of the transfers. I'm going to step out of the room for that. You can grab me when you're done.
Yeah, I guess that and Angela can help me mess up here. But my understanding, our last meeting on June 11th, we voted a number of transfers. And there was some technicality that just made those transfers null and void. Carol, is that a good term? Those transfers that we voted for last time.
Right, I believe it was a challenge.
A challenge, yeah. So what we have to do is reintroduce those transfers and vote on them again. What we have to do is make a motion to reintroduce those transfers. Do we make a motion to resend the vote? Someone can make a motion? Okay. Yeah. All in favor of resending the vote of previous transfers that were voted on June 11th, 2020, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? So that,
The challenge about documents that I provided for you this evening don't have a breakdown of all budget transfers previously authorized. It's helpful to see summary. You're on page 3. This is document dated June 18th, 2020.
okay. Would you mind? So I have to reintroduce. Make them,
Summarize it for you?
yes.
Okay. Did you want to review the purposes of those transfers, or do you just want to take them all?
Yeah.
It's actually, we're not dealing with that.
Yeah.
We're dealing with
Before you, 6 budget transfers for year-end transfers to your consideration, and they total $1,015,700. Our portion of that is transferred with the state money for the that alone is $44,000.
So I'd like someone to make a motion to approve the 6 transfers. Second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We'll 6 transfers passed. That concludes that. Good. Mark, could you make the original rescind the transfers motion?
Yes.
And who seconded it? Angela seconded.
Just on that, Cal, do you need stuff re-signed, or do you just need a letter from the board or something? Yeah, I'll have the vice chair put something together. We'll work on that for you.
Who made the motion? Did you make the motion, Mark, to approve the new one? Oh, you did. Did you say? Okay.
So you all set?
Yep.
All right, I don't have anything else other than just apologizing to the people who struggled through this meeting, especially at the beginning when we were having technical difficulties, and we'll get better at it. This is only the second time we've tried to do this. We'll get better at it because we have to get better at it. I'm gonna reserve, unless Thursdays seem to work. Thursdays at 6:30, I'm gonna reserve every Thursday at 6:30 I can, and I'm gonna try to do it here or somewhere where we can be in a room. That's going forward, and then I'm gonna work with Mary and the town clerk's office and see what other night is available also at 6:30, or what other space is available, and bring that forward and just book those from now until town meeting, because I think we're gonna need them. And I'd much rather cancel one and take a night off than not have it when we need it. So that's kind of my plan. Any other problems with that? Cal, you get the last word. Would you like anything to say? Mark, did you have anything? All set? Angelo? John?
I'm fine.
Dan? You're good? Are you sure? All right, thank you very folks. We are adjourned. I will stop recording.
I sent you.